My name is Frank Morrocco. I did 21 years in federal prison, and I'm on here chatting with Staxx right now and enjoying it.
Welcome to this episode of Chatting with Staxx. I'm your host, Bill Staxx, and today I got Frank Morrocco.
So what had happened was when the word got out, you got Joey Testa there. I think you had Frankie Lacascio there, Ralph DeLeo. There was Italian guys there. And Vic Amuso, who was the boss of the Lucchese's. He's the top dog there. It laid back, sweetheart. Vic, what a great guy. When the word got out, he tells Joey, he tells the other Italians, can't associate with him. The father's no good. You can't associate with him. And everybody kind of rounded on Greg, you know, in a way, from what I remember. I mean, you know.
So what happens? Something happens.
Okay. So the word was, and I don't think Greg would say this happened. But now Greg was almost done with the sentence, but he had a new case, and he had to go back to New York. Supposedly, and let me put the word supposedly in quotes, okay? Don't quote me. But supposedly, Vic Amuso told Greg, he told Greg he was leaving the next day on a writ. It's supposedly Vic told Greg Jr., do the right thing, don't be a rat like your father. That's what kicked that off.
And I heard that Vic Amuso was washing his bowl in the mop closet, and then Scarpa Jr. hit him in the head with like a pipe or something.
Well, the funny thing is, they locked Vic up. Now, one of Jimmy Coonan, you know who Jimmy Coonan is?
Yes.
Okay, I was there with Jimmy Coonan. Well, I didn't know this happened, and so they were locking all the Italians up. Well, I'm not a maid guy. Jimmy Coonan comes to me. He says, Frank. He comes to me and hands me a pair of sunglasses. He says, Frankie, put these sunglasses on. They're locking all the Italians up.
Why? So they wouldn't take them from him?
Oh, it was a joke. No, they locked all the Italians up when Greg hit Vic with the pipe. They locked all the maid guys up. So Vic gets sent to Atlanta. And weeks later, I got sent to Atlanta. And the first thing he did was Vic grabs me. He said, Frankie, what were they saying? And I told him what they were saying, but I can't remember if he agreed to it or he disagreed to it. I don't know exactly what happened, you know, but I know that I believe that move is what put Greg Scarpa Jr. in the ADX for all those years. Because they thought there would be a hit on Greg Scarpa Jr. That's my opinion. Because I'm sure people are going to, like Greg Scarpa's going to probably, you know, hear this. He probably watches these.
And then when the bomber, right, for the World Trade Center bomber had, or something like that, he
had confided in Greg about something. That's what I hear. How true? Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I hear, but I can't say that happened for sure.
Now, what about Nicky Scarfo? Were you with him?
Never met him. I'll tell you a weird one. And I follow Joey Merlino. I like Joey Merlino. You?
Mm-hmm.
Well, don't answer that. I like Joey Merlino. I never met him. But I was in a prison with that Johnny Ciancaglini. They call him Johnny Chang. His brother got murdered in the Philadelphia mob war. And, you know, in prison, if you're friends with somebody, you let them know who's a rat and who's not a rat. And this fucking Johnny Chang introduced me to this guy. His last name was Spataro. And I brought a lot of commissary with me, and I had ZD. I had some shit you couldn't get in the prison we were at. So he said, well, let me get this, and then I want to give it to, I forgot Spataro's name. Dude, I come to find out he's giving this shit, and he was a known rat, this Spataro dude. So, like, you know, in my eyes, this Johnny Chang, just was a lame as a mob guy. But that Joey ain't no lame.
Chicago?
Say that again?
His dad was pretty
Philly.
His dad was pretty well known too. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, but that Johnny was in my eyes
Uh,
he was a lame in my
Yeah.
eyes.
Any guys from Chicago? Were you locked up with any guys from
I
Chicago?
was with a guy. I think he was from Chicago. Al Toco. They called him Taco. He was a nice guy, mob guy. They don't say mob there. They're considered the outfit.
Yeah, the outfit.
Right. Yeah, I was with him. I was with Cadillac Frank Salemi. I was around a lot of people. Oh, Andrew Russo, Danny Pagano. I was around a lot of real serious people.
Yeah, I mean, 21 years in prison, 22 years in prison. You would think you've been to how many different prisons were you
Oh
in?
my God. I had my points would change. Or I'd get a write up. Oh my God, I can't even tell you. I was at least 6 different prisons. And then I got sick and I had to go to 2 in Butner. I was around, I'll tell you who I couldn't stand is that Gene Gotti. I was around him. I did not like him or that, what was his name? Joe Gambino. Let me tell you what, most of them New York mob guys think they're the only fucking mob. They do. Now, I'm in a joint with my buddy Jimmy Ciccarella, Buffalo mob guy. We're together. And we're around a guy, a capo out of, I believe, the Gambino family. And he was close to the Tadaros in Buffalo. And he was always saying, oh, you Buffalo guys, you this and that, and he kind of made, now he was very close with the Tadaros from what I found out. He would kid too much about the mob guys from Buffalo. So now I ain't a mob guy, but I'm cooking, we're hanging, I'm associated. One day I says, you know what, Sammy? You go on about the mob guys, and you motherfuckers in New York City got a whole article in the New York Times about your rats. You guys got more rats than any mob in the country. Give me the name of one mob guy in Buffalo went bad. He never talked to me again. And Jimmy, my buddy Jimmy, he was a made guy. He said, Frankie, when you get home, you're going to probably have to go to a sit down over this. And I said, well, whatever. But he said, I got your back. But, I've been at the P3. It was never brought up.
So you do a lot of time in prison. You end up getting out of prison, right?
Mm-hmm.
What was that like to step out of prison after all that time?
My friends picked me up, Mark and Sue Schifferly. I was in Butner. I'm supposed to be on a bus to go home. I ain't getting on the mother bus. Buffalo Harley Davidson sent me all the clothes to come home, and they sent me, all Harley Davidson garb, And you're like, I haven't had street clothes on in 21 years, and I'm walking out of there with, Harley hoodies, and, I had a pole, and they brought me $1,500 cash and some other stuff. I was all right. But here's the funny thing. Now I got to go to the bus stop to get dropped off. So the camp drivers take you to the bus, right? The guys at the camp. So I get in the car and I'm okay. And I wanted to get something to eat. We went through a drive-thru. I forget, McDonald's or whatever. That was like being in fucking heaven. And I wanted to get something else. I forgot. We pulled into a bodega. And, I never got out of the car yet. So they said, I said, what do you guys want? One guy wanted a pack of Newports. Another guy wanted a cherry. I still remember. He wanted a cherry chapstick. I said, well, come in with me. Pick out what you want. They can't get out of the car. Now, you got to remember, for 21 years, I'm looking through a bulletproof glass, picking out potato chips and shit in prison. Dude, I walked in this bodega and I froze. Like, and there's everything at your fingertips, Then my friends picked me up. I treated them. We stopped at a steak lobster place. I treated them. Oh, then they brought me a cell phone. So we stopped in Virginia. We activate the cell phone. Now all the guys from the prison, I told them, call my mother. She'll have my cell number because I got a cell phone coming. And after the 4 o'clock count, they all called me from prison. Frank's out. Whoa, it was pretty cool. So now I got a girl lined up. I ain't had no 21 years. I got a 30-year-old girl lined up. She's going to meet me at the Best Western downtown. So I'm thinking my friends Mark and Sue are going to drive straight through. And Sue says, well, let's stop in Ohio or something for the night. I said, Sue, I got a girl waiting in a motel. I made them drive all the way through. But I was
Yeah,
good.
but so are you on parole or anything like that when you get back? Are you on parole?
Yes, I was, and I violated it on purpose when the leukemia came back.
Yeah,
I came
tell me
home.
about that. Tell me about
Okay.
violating parole on purpose.
Okay, well, here's the deal. Parole wasn't bothering me. I come home, I got 6 figures of money in the bank. I got a brand new Harley. I got a gorgeous apartment, all brand. I came home with money. So they're not, and I had a job. I had 2 job offers a year before I came home. I had 2 different job offers. So I'm working right away, and parole's not bothering me. And when I was at Butner, when they did the chemo on me, they didn't administer it to me correctly. So before I got home, my counts start dropping, my platelet counts. I'd go to the hospital there, because I'm in a hospital. I'm in the, well, you know what Roswell is, but I'm like in the Cancer Institute of the Bureau of Prisons. So, like the Cleveland Clinic, you know what the Cleveland Clinic is, right?
No.
Okay, it's a high-end hospital. Anyway, well, because I'm not terminal and I'm getting released in a year or so, they wouldn't do the chemo again because I wasn't going to die. So I get home and I'm okay. And then it hits me. I got no insurance. I got a fucking Corvette. I got a Cherokee. I got a Harley. I got a bank account. I got a new apartment with all new shit in it. I got no insurance. I went to a hospital and they says, listen, we got to admit you. I got no insurance. I said, no. You ain't even admitting me. So right away in my mind, I said to myself,
couldn't you just get insurance?
I would have been paying astronomical money. You get insurance for a pre-existing illness. I didn't, my money would have been gone in weeks. I needed chemo again. So I left the hospital and I told my parole officer, so it gets in my head, well, let me just violate parole, go back and get the chemo. I'll pay my rent. I'll put my car, my motorcycle away and do 5-6 months and come home with the chemo. So I call my parole officer. I'm going to violate. He says, whoa, what are you talking about? And I tell him the story. I says, Chris, that was my parole officer's name. I says, dude, I'm not going to lose all my money when I could go back for 5-6 months for free. Let us try to help you. They did. Federal Parole Division, they reached out trying to save me. I said, well, I'm going to violate. I walked in Wegmans. You got Wegmans where you are?
No. But
okay, it's a high-end grocery store. I walked in there one night, started throwing in the bag and waited for the police to come and arrest me so I could go back to prison. So Friday, I'm out. I'm a couple hundred miles away. I'm up in the Poconos buying cars because I buying cars for a living. And the marshals called me and said, Frank, we got a warrant for you. I said, yeah, I know. I mean, you got to know I did it on purpose. They said, well, will you turn yourself in? I said, right, I'll turn myself in. What day? I said, it's Friday. I'm out of town. They said, we know you're out of town. We were at your apartment already. We're your landlord. They said, by the way, you got a beautiful apartment. It was funny. One of the marshals actually applied to get an apartment where I lived. So anyway, they agreed to let me turn myself in Tuesday. They just said, Frank, listen, we know you're not home. We know you're out of town. Just don't get pulled over. We're not going to bother you. Will you turn yourself in Tuesday? And I did. So I put an old pair of gray sweatpants on. I put a gray T-shirt on, and I'm ready to go back to prison on my own. I go in front of the judge, and the motherfucker ORs me.
What?